Hey everybody, Unstable Gamer here, and welcome back to another Marvel Strike Force video. Here we're going to be talking about some more advanced tips and tricks for Alliance War. These are things that have worked well for my alliance, and I've seen work well with other alliances as well. So we're going to go ahead and go through the top 5 advanced tips that I have for you for Alliance War. But first, before we jump into that, if you're just now finding this channel and you want to stay up to date with this and other games, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out. All right, and welcome back. So these tips here, these are kind of more advanced tips to Alliance War that have been working well for my alliance, and I've seen other alliances doing this as well, and I've talked to other people. So these are going to be the top 5 tips that I think are something that everybody should really focus on. Some of them may be pretty basic, but because they're basic, they could be overlooked. So let's go ahead and talk about the first strategy here, which is drilling down the middle. Starting at Flight Deck 2 and just running down the middle here. The reason for this is because as you complete one side of each one of these rooms, you're going to unlock the lower room. So you drill down through the middle, all the way down to the bottom, looking for specific rooms that you know you want to target. Now, the reason why I don't recommend going off to the sides is because typically, once you drill down the sides, once you blow a room, you're only going to unlock the room that's right next to it, the adjacent room, right? Whereas in the middle, once you blow that room, you're going to unlock both rooms on either side of it. Now, the one caveat to this is if you're a huge alliance with a ton of heavy hitters, then it really doesn't matter. And with people who are super active, really watching your attacks there and spending your alliance energy refills, then you can pretty much do whatever you want. But for the typical alliance, I really suggest drilling down the middle and then looking for some specific rooms. We're going to talk about those specific rooms right now, actually. Typically, the strategy is drill down the middle and you look for 2 rooms. You look for the barracks, well, more than just 2 rooms, but you look for the barracks, the armory, the med bay, and the hangar. So if I was running down through here and I ran all the way down to the bottom and I didn't see any one of those, then I would blow that room at the bottom there, unlock the 2 rooms at the side, on the side like we did here, and we see the bridge and the barracks on either side. Now for me, I would hit the barracks first before hitting the bridge, because going for the higher points isn't always a sure win unless you have a far enough lead ahead of the other player against your opponent there. I would go for the barracks because the barracks, these rooms that I'm looking for, all have global buffs, and you want to remove those global buffs as much as possible. Now, contrary to popular belief, not everybody really focuses on putting a lot of their heavy hitters on the bridge. They really don't. I've seen some alliances do, but I don't see a whole lot of massive 200k teams guarding the bridge. They're really kind of more spread out. Protecting the global room, the rooms that give the global buffs, things like that. So that is something you definitely want to keep an eye on as you're drilling through. Now, if I got down to the middle here and I ran into the barracks, I would definitely blow the barracks before I went down below. When you get one side done, you'll see that below one, but if this is the barracks and this was a room that I'm not really focused on, or maybe even if it's another global room, then you'll spend less energy blowing the barracks than you would blowing this room down here. So then you'd unlock these 2, and then depending on which room you run into, focus on either one of those rooms that you just unlocked or the one that's below the barracks right here. So that right there, I think that's a huge, huge thing to keep an eye out for, because those global buffs tend to cause a lot of anguish for some people. So as you get rid of those global buffs, then the other opponent's teams become weaker and a little bit more easy to manage. All right, next, team formations. Now, one thing that I would recommend, and I see a lot of people doing this actually, is when you go, like if I go into Flight Deck 1 here, I see some 66k, 97k rooms, things like that for my opponent, right? If I go down below here in the barracks, I'm going to assume, yep, right here, you're going to see a 204 or 200k plus team in here. Keep an eye on that, but here's the thing. I would not, me personally, so this is my tip, I would not personally put a massive team like this in the beginning, I would hide this 204k team in slot 6, 7, or 8, or maybe even in 6 and then in 8. Reason for that is because you can only see the first 2, right? So once 2 is taken out, then you're going to see 1 and 3. If you take 3 out, you're going to see 1 and 4. I think most of us typically know how that works. You're only going to see 2 teams at a time. So if you keep the lower level teams here, it gives your opponent a false sense of security. And as they run through that, I mean, I've ran through it, and I've seen in slot 7 here, you know, a 230k defenders team, which stops a lot of people in their tracks. And then it's almost a wasted effort, because you know you're not going to blow that room, unless the other caveat to that is if you're a massive alliance with a ton of heavy hitters, then you can work through a lot of that. Definitely, I would hide these higher point rooms. The only way I would not do that is if I was trying to lead my opponent down a specific path. So what I mean by that is, if we go up here, let's see, if we go up here and I take a look at my flight deck and I see this 317k team right here and this one here, and these over here, my opponent's going to think twice about attacking this flight deck. And maybe now some people may think it's a waste to put this 317k team up here, but when you're trying to funnel a team in a specific direction and lead them where you want them to go, because you got traps or you got these higher teams hidden back in these back slots here for 7 and 8, then it makes a whole lot of sense. So again, just something to keep in mind where you want to put those high level teams. Are you leading your opponent somewhere, or are you trapping them, making them think they're going to go ahead and blow that room, and they're really not? That was kind of a big one. Next, there are 2 rooms. I don't know, well, some people may miss this, but there are 2 rooms specifically that give military bonuses. And that is, let's go ahead and go back over here. There's only 2. So you have the barracks here. This is a global buff room. It also gives an extra 10% bonus to military allies. So you want to focus military allies in that room. Same with the armory. Plus 10% bonus to military allies. So something to definitely keep in mind when you put teams in these rooms right here. So that was kind of a quick tip. Next one, when you're taking a look and you're strategizing with your alliance. I haven't really done this yet, but actually I'm starting to work on a strategy to incorporate this, but I know other alliances have, and I know that it's a pretty successful strategy as well. But when you have alliance members who might not have a whole lot of roster, maybe they've got some high power teams in there, but they don't have enough to put on defense and have teams left over for offense, designate certain peoples within your alliance that are defense only, which means they're not going to be doing attacks unless you come across some really low power level teams, which there's a ton of them. You got the 15k shield teams and a lot of that stuff. But if you designate people for defense only, they put their heavy hitters strategically in the rooms that you want them in. And then on the offense side, they either don't do anything at all, or they just kind of take out some of the fodder that's there to save some of the alliance members who have heavier teams, heavier hitters, save them that action, that attack, and helps kind of progress the alliance that way. I think that's a good strategy as well, something that I'm looking at. But I know that some alliances have done that and they've been pretty successful. So just a quick tip there. Something I missed, but going back to the rooms that I'm looking for, again, it's the hangar, the barracks, the med bay, and the armory that have the global buffs. Prioritizing which ones I hit first. So I will always hit, so barracks is number 1, armory is number 1, or if I run into them in reverse order, armory in number 1, barracks number 2. Those are the first 2 that I'll always hit because they give the military buff and they give really good defensive buffs. If I go into here, plus 20% health to max health, damage, armor resistance, and focus on all defending allies. Both of these rooms do that. And then I would go to the hangar. If I run into it, sometimes I don't even worry about the hangar. But this one would be number 3 for me. Apply deflect to all attacking allies. and then the medbay is last. So the medbay gives 40% health to all defending allies. That's a good, decent chunk there, but I don't think it's anything that needs to be strategically prioritized in any way. So that's the order in which I take a look at those rooms, and then if none of those come up, it really just depends on what I'm looking for at the time as far as points and stuff like that. Do I want to hit the reactor and score those 100 points, or maybe I go back to like these two rooms? This is my team. Hold on, let me go to the other room. Or maybe I go back to engineering or cargo and blow those rooms, because it takes less attacks to blow that room than it would an entirely new room. Like I don't know, if I was thinking about taking Flight Deck 3, it would take twice as much to blow Flight Deck 3 for 50 points as it would to blow the cargo and get your 50 points. So that's just something to keep in mind there as well. And there you go, everybody. That's what I had for you today. Just a quick video on the top 5 advanced tips I would call for Alliance Wars to really help you be more successful and to think a little bit differently maybe when you're going in for your next attack or when you're going up against your next opponent, and maybe it gives you a little bit of insight on what they're thinking as well. So I'm very interested to hear what kind of tips and tactics you have. Make sure to let me know about them in the comment section. And as always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you enjoyed it, if it was helpful in any way, shape, or form, please make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.